My name is Sigurd Subshin, and welcome to my channel. Today's date is August 21st, 2024. Now, the date really isn't all that important, except that I want to document my journey showing you exactly what I'm doing in order to succeed. I've decided to focus on a special group of people, and these people are creators. People who have a message they want to deliver to the world, whether that be as an author, an artist of some sort, or maybe a YouTuber, but yet they feel blocked. They feel like no matter what they're doing, they just don't seem to be able to get their message out to the world. That is the niche I am focusing on. And if you're one of those people who feel stuck, well, welcome. I'm going to show you and teach you how to get unstuck. So the reason why I'm doing this, that I have this genuine desire. I really, really want to help people overcome their mental blockages. And why do I want that? Well, I've been working since 1993 as a psychologist, more specifically a hypnotherapist. And this is what I've been doing. I've been helping one-on-one for many, many years now. And I've decided I want to take it to the next level and help a whole lot of people through this wonderful medium on YouTube and on the internet. So welcome. So what is this whole idea of self-development? How can you actually overcome your mental blockages? Well, let's start off by defining your present self. At this moment in time, you are who you are with those capabilities, those beliefs, and those limitations that you presently have. Now, the interesting thing is, it's really easy to imagine your future self. I call that your conceptual. Conceptual, should be a C there, self. In your mind's eye, you can quite easily imagine who you want to be. The problem with that is that the imagination of who you want to be isn't actually who you are at the moment. So there's this little gap, or maybe it could be a huge gap, between where you are and where you want to be. And the question is, how can we in the most effective and quickest way, go from your present self to your conceptual self, the future self, who can do the things that you want to do, who can create those things that you want. And the way to think about filling that gap is through learning. So you're going to want to fill this gap through some sort of learning paradigm. And I have a lot to say about learning, but I just don't want to go there just at the moment. What I want to talk about is one of the biggest mistakes that we do. Because we can so easily imagine who we want to be, we often feel like a failure because we can't be that person at the moment. Or maybe we can be that person sometimes, but not consistently enough in order to create the kind of lifestyle and the kind of income that you want to have in your life. And so what we're going to do is we're going to figure out, well, how to get there. How can I use learning and learning paradigms in order to bridge this gap? One of the things that people do wrong is because they can imagine themselves doing something, they really start getting down on themselves. Imagine that your present self is like a captain on a ship, right? And so you're on this old steamboat ship, and there's this smoke coming out, and here you are as the captain, and you're defining where you want to go, what you want to create, what your goals are. And down here is the crew. And there are some crew members who are running the machine room, some of them are running the gallery, etc. Now the captain can always be proactive. The captain can always make decisions about what they want to happen, how they want things to happen, whereas the crew, they're always just responding. They always are in a reaction to something. And what's happening here is that the captain is charting a course, but sometimes the captain forgets that, well, I'm not actually at the spot yet. I'm just living in my imagination. And the captain gets frustrated with themselves, and part of the crew is getting frustrated, and they're trying to influence the captain. They're telling the captain what a shitty job they're doing, what's not going on. And then the captain reiterates, gives feedback to the crew about how awful things are, how dumb they are, how things are not working out. And this eventually ruins the whole trip and ends up draining you of energy. And it's another way of thinking about this, if you're thinking of it from a cognitive psychology perspective, when your inner dialogue is negative, you're going to be thinking negative thoughts, and these negative thoughts are going to be pulling down your energy level, and they're going to be making you feel like shit. You're just going to feel like you can't do what you need to do to be creative over time. So one of the clues to be able to bridge this gap is learning to change your inner dialogue. Now remember, dialogue, how is that pronounced? Something like that. In order to do that, it's easy, again, to conceptualize, well, I should just be nice to myself. I should be building myself up. I should, etc., etc. However, that too can create a false sense of accomplishment, because just because you know the idea and you can visualize it doesn't necessarily mean you're able to make that transition immediately. So it might take a little bit of time. We're going to come back to this whole interplay here in a little bit later, but I want to present the whole flow of change. I want to talk about the flow of change. Change starts with awareness. You are aware that you want something to be different. You want to have a change. And for some people, just becoming aware of why they are stuck and what's going on allows them to bridge that gap very quickly from their present self to their conceptual self. However, for most people, we actually have to start learning. We have to change the neurology of our brains so that we can actually be able to consistently be that ideal self in the future and deliver consistently on our promises to ourselves and work consistently towards our goals. But sometimes there are other things that are blocking us from being able to learn. And what could be blocking us might be something on a neurological level. Let's say you suffer from dyslexia. Well, it's going to be a huge training hill to overcome in order to be able to really read fluently and easily. And maybe you'll never get there depending upon how severe your dyslexia is. However, you can improve dramatically through training, but it's going to mean a lot of effort, a lot of work. Other things that might be stopping you from learning might be trauma. For instance, if you're a child and you've been trying to learn, let's say, mathematics, and you might have had an older brother or sister who's laughing at you every time you make a mistake or who's putting you down, or maybe even you have a parent who's being condescending. And this type of trauma might actually come up every time you try to learn how to do mathematics. When it comes to creators, there are so many other things that could be on this level or this level that are stopping us from really developing the kind of content that we want to create. As you can imagine, treating trauma through an online platform like this really isn't possible. I guess it kind of depends upon the severity of the trauma. I would definitely suggest and highly recommend that if you think you're suffering from trauma, that you ally yourself with a doctor or with a good psychologist or therapist so that you have some tools that you can work through. And you can use those tools parallel with what you're learning here on this channel in order to become that creator, that person you really want to be in the future. However, let's say you're only suffering from mild trauma, or you're just not quite sure how you're going to bridge that gap between your present self and your conceptual self, how you're going to be able to become that person you want to be. You remember that gap that we had here? We were talking about the difference between your present self and your conceptual self. And we have to ask ourselves, well, what kind of things need to be in place in order for you to learn as quickly as possible? Well, the first thing you really need to have in place is focus. Some people might say, well, I don't have this ability to focus, or I can only focus for a short time. It's okay if you can only focus for a short time. I'm going to teach you some good tricks in order to be able to maintain focus over time. However, focus for adults is key because it releases a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine. I think that's pronounced correctly. I'll get back to the correct pronunciation earlier. Acetylcholine, I think it's pronounced. And this is something that's very prevalent in a young child's mind. And it gradually becomes less and less. And at around 23, 24, 25, it's at very low levels. However, when adults are super focused on something, that's when we release that neurotransmitter and it allows us to learn much more quickly. So focus is the first key to learning. The second key to learning is what most people would call repetition. However, repetition, it's a fallacy to just think, oh, I'm just going to repeat it over and over again. I just need to cram it into my brain, because it has to do more with multi-sensory type of repetition. The more you can engage your sensory experience when you repeat something, the faster and easier it will be for you to bridge this gap, because you're making many more connections on a neurological level in your brain. So being able to visualize what you're trying to do, having a movement connected to what you're trying to do, maybe a story relating it to some movies that you've seen, etc., etc. All that type of repetition where you're actively working with whatever it is you're trying to learn, repeating it in an active way, is going to facilitate the change process much more quickly, especially when you're focused and your brain is releasing the right type of neurotransmitters in order for you to really start to remember. Now, memory is a very interesting thing. And in order to make your memory really work at top notch, you need to be able to get some sort of downtime. What do I mean by downtime? Well, when you sleep, you will have a tendency to dream about what it is you've been repeating and learning. And you will engage the same neurons in your brain that you were focusing on and working on as you're trying to build this gap. The interesting thing is that when we are sleeping, this is when the brain starts to change the neurology, and it allows you to really cement down what it is you're trying to learn. You can also get this through hypnosis. That's why I include hypnosis as a central part of this channel, or guided hypnosis, where you listen to a sound file and the sound file helps you become even more focused. And this downtime process of repeating and focusing will allow you to make this change much more quickly. What kind of issues are we going to address for the next 90 days? My goal for the next 90 days is to present 2 videos a week where I record like I'm doing now. And you'll just have to take it as it is. It's not going to be perfect. There's not going to be perfect editing. I'm not trying to be flashy or anything. I'm just going to be right down to earth, just delivering you content right from my heart, right from the gut, sharing with you what I know. And the kind of issues we're going to work on are all these different types of mental blockages, like procrastination, perfectionism, anxiety to perform in front of a camera, I've noticed online that there are so many channels dedicated to the technical aspects of becoming a creator, but very few people address the emotional blockages that can arise. So these are the issues I'm going to address within the next 90 days. And my goal is to be able to monetize the channel within 90 days. I want to have, at the end of 90 days, around 5,000 new followers. And I'm very ambitious because by April 30th, 2025, I want to have 350,000 followers on this channel, and I want to be in a position to be able to sell digital products for around $1 million a year. So I'm definitely interested in making money as well as helping as many people as possible. So if you like this vision, if you want to be part of this community, start off by clicking the like button, joining the notification button, all that good stuff, and I'll be back in a few more days. Now, you might notice that the days I publish this is not the day I actually record it, and that's okay. I just want to be able to show you that what I'm doing is actually live. And I'm going to reveal the next subject that we're going to talk about next time. It's going to be some sort of issue. And if you're interested in exploring some issue that you find challenging or just can't overcome, please write it down in the comments, because then I can deliver that to you. Thanks for your attention.